Good afternoon, beautiful beings. I am here for episode 2 of Bridge of Light. I am so delighted to have my friend from, as we would say in earth terms, across the pond, but energetically I think we're closer than we are imagined to be. So this is Krista, who I came to know as the Transformation Doctor on Instagram. She does some beautiful channelings and she's got some really good words of wisdom, and I know she's got a really interesting story to share with us today. So I'm just going to kick off and get straight into this question, which is, when did you realise or come to the idea that you were a spiritual, as we say, being? You know, did you have an awakening? Has it always been in your life? Tell us your story.
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you, Kat. So yes, we are way more energetically connected and near than we really believe. I would say probably my first actual spiritual experience was when I was 10 years old, and it was the night my grandfather was buried. So he had just passed away, and I woke up in the middle of the night to a being standing at the end of my bed, and my entire room was white. I mean, wow. Lit as bright as I can possibly think. That is the only memory of it. I've asked Spirit a number of times, like, who was that? And I don't think it was my grandfather, to be honest with you. Fast forward another 10, 12, 15 years into my mid-20s, I really got into doing some body work, and I have, green thumbs grow in our family. So I was growing like little herbs and, lavender and chamomile. And I just was very in touch with the earth, that shaman kind of stuff, and crystals, blowing all my paycheck on, at the rock shop.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Oh yeah, I know. I still have a problem. So I got into doing massage therapy. And in that process, I was introduced to energy work. So in 1997, I became an Usui, traditional Reiki master. And I can trace my lineage to eight people.
Yeah.
I know, right? Isn't that crazy? And I also became a prana healer. So okay. I studied under Master Choa Kok Sui, who is no longer with us. Master Ko is heading that up. So beautiful, beautiful energy work. Fast forward another little bit. I ended up transitioning from massage therapy into chiropractic. I graduated in 2004, and I went into practice very wide-eyed and optimistic. I soon realized that, the business world is not synonymous with healing necessarily. But I realized that in working with thousands of patients, it's always the same precipitating factor. It always comes from up here. And once you have energetic attunements, you don't turn it off. You can't turn it off. It just, these are Reiki.
Yeah.
So it just flows. You know what I mean? So I mentioned this to you, and I want to say this. My ultimate awakening, I would say, sent me on a 5-year, 6-year dark night of the soul. And it happened to be not long after I retired from practice and I moved back to my hometown. I got a job teaching at my alma mater, and I was being a student advocate. I was being a patient advocate, and I was fired for being unprofessional.
Wow. Okay.
And as this, entrepreneur Capricorn woman out in the world, that was mortifying to be told that. So it sent me on this journey, and a lot of my friends would say, you're free now. What do you want to do? What can you do? What makes you happy? And it terrified me that I couldn't really answer that question. So I went into this hermit mode, and I had day after day of tower moments. And I just really tried to figure out who am I? What does make me happy? Because I immersed my entire life, my adult life, in my career, and I never even thought about my personal happiness. So it sent me down this really dark road for a long time. But when I started putting things together, I realized that I needed to get rid of, I don't mean like get rid of, but I needed to sever that professional, energetic past from who I am right now. So on the Lionsgate in 2017, solar eclipse, 13-year practice anniversary, I quit. I decided I'm done. I retired. I'm out. Another few years later, lots of darkness. I'm watching The Voice, a singing competition, and I hear a coach. This girl gets picked. She has a 4-chair turn. It's this huge moment, and I hear a coach, might have been Kelly Clarkson, I'm not sure, say, "It makes me so happy to help other people find their happiness." And I told you this before we got on here, and I have goosebumps again. That's how I just know I am, on point. So, right, when you just start to kind of vibrate and tingle like that. And it really does truly make me happy to help other people find their happy. And I realized that adjusting them all day long was not getting them there, because it wasn't addressing what planted the seed to begin with. So here I am at 48, going to be 49 at the end of the year, and I'm still in evolution. You asked me, how do you want me to introduce you? And I was like, however you feel, whatever comes through. Because it is so important to recognize that no matter where in your life, this is a never-ending journey and experience.
Things that I find really interesting about that part of your story is it's very similar to mine. So, I was brought up by healers, by Chinese healers, and I was originally trained as an acupuncturist. And, one of the things that I found really difficult with acupuncture is the way that I practiced was very kind of unfashionable to other people, because it's actually a very academic skill nowadays, and I find that, the idea that I came to with the very energetic process of it was very different from what a lot of people sort of saw. And that's kind of what's almost drawn me away and eventually made me step back from that kind of work and, actually follow a path that was much more spiritually inclined and related to emotional health. Because even if you look in the classics of Chinese medicine, the Huangdi Lei Jing, it all talks about the lowest level of medicine is physical healing. The middle level is emotional, and the highest level is always addressing things on a spiritual nature, and I think the same as you, it's people would come in, for what I kind of call the fix every week. There's so many people that are still caught in that paradigm of kind of physical healing. And I think even with the emotional and spiritual work, because I do a lot of pranic work myself, I do a lot of what's called Qigong healing. So, using energy to work with the acupuncture points, I still do consultancy now for people that want to approach acupuncture more spiritually, it's quite interesting because they don't really understand that kind of depth and level of it. But it's really fascinating to hear your story because it is so similar to mine. I think I was the same as you. I went into this community where I thought, everyone's going to be really well healed and they're all going to be sound and safe and everything. And I kind of got in there, and I guess, there was a lot. Yes, there was amazing people that I've met, but there was a lot of people where they were kind of where they were at, but they were very much kind of caught in the paradigm of, dealing with physical health. Because I think really it's like they were so caught up in the paradigm that we're all caught in with modern medicine, that disease is physical, So, it's fascinating to hear something so similar. And I think there's probably many more of us out there that have this same reality, where you kind of go running into something like, yes, here I am. And they're all like,
yeah.
What are you doing here?
Like, right, you become a doctor and you're going to make millions of dollars. And no, like, people don't have any idea. And, I think probably a parallel for you and I would be, and you even mentioned it, like, it's more scientific-y or, so this is bottom line. Documentation sucks. And how do you document energy work to a left-brained insurance company that is dictating that your care is not even valid? This is like someone with a billing degree or a certification telling me that my care is not even warranted. Like, who are you? So I couldn't, that was just a paradigm that I'm done. And also I just got done with that rigmarole of the bureaucracy around it. And that similarity that you were mentioning around TCM, acupuncture, one of the reasons I know I got a job at my alma mater and could take continuing education classes for $15 a weekend. I took a 100-hour certification of acupuncture.
Wow.
Do you know that I did not go take my board exam because I didn't want to be part of the bureaucracy part of it?
Yeah.
And I know that sounds kind of messed up maybe for some practitioners, but once you have a certification, there are rules that you have to play by. And if you're licensed, you know what I mean? So you have your scope of practice. And I sort of found this interesting little wiggle room. Now I keep my license, but as you were saying, you could needle somebody all day long. If they're going to go home and fill their mind and their body with garbage, no energetic balancing is going to do any of that if they're not doing the healing themselves. So as practitioners, I think a lot of us have come to this realization that I'm doing the healing for you, and that is never going to work. And I love you. I love all of you. But I love, meet me on step 2 or, up here if you're ready for this kind of healing. But I got to leave some people where they are. And as a healer, as an empath, that's very challenging to.
Yes.
So how did that affect you, actually?
Well, I mean, I think personally, I find it quite draining, to be honest, because it's like you're just pushing your energy onto other people. And, I think especially when I was younger, I kind of saw it very much as a reflection of my how good I was as a healer as to whether other people, recovered or not. And then it was when I was speaking to one of my, I call him my master, but he wouldn't be very happy, my friend, about it, and he said, really, he said the greatest healer, he said, if you can heal 3 out of 10, you're doing a very good job at this level. And it was him who talked to me about the idea, and he said, the difficulty is when people are coming for that level of healing and you're trying to talk to them at a different level, then, he said, it's like the leading the horse to water scenario, it's, that here's what you need, but that they won't drink it. So, it was, I'm so lucky to have what I had surrounding me and to be able to go back to the classics and to be able to understand that and have the people around me that I needed.
For sure.
But it was much more about myself than it was about them, and I think that's the thing that when I realised it was what really made me want to step away from that community in general, because it made me realise that there was a lot of people that were, unknowingly, I guess, in there for the wrong reasons. So it was very difficult for me. It always has been to keep my mouth shut in situations like that, and I found myself, kind of sidelined by some people because, they were healers and they weren't ready to hear other people's ideas on their own particular health journey, and
have you turned on the television lately? That's all there is. Wow.
Exactly. So wow. It was it's very difficult in that sense to really approach, because as you said, it is all the profession, when I am this respected person in the community, and there was so much else that was tied up within it that they weren't willing to accept, that, it was the picture they'd created for themselves and not the actual work that they were doing, and, I think especially, within the culture that it's in as well, there's a lot of, young women are definitely not the ones that are supposed to be shouting, at highly qualified older men about where they think they're at in the process. But, it also made me realise that you can only draw people up to where you've been. So that's really what kind of started me into this kind of much deeper journey, was this reality that I understood. If I couldn't get myself to a higher vibration, to a higher frequency, then I couldn't lift anyone else up with me. And once I left that energy, it was so freeing. It was such a kind of release, really, because then I was able to step into and begin to discover what it was that I really had a talent for. So, yeah.
Isn't that so amazing? And trusting the path, like really actually trusting that path of like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And fast forwarding to now, I know for myself, I'm able to pull physical healing, like how all of these things are connected. Why does food affect your ascension journey? I could tell you on all these levels. So being aware that all of our past experiences are training.
Yes.
For finding, oh my gosh, I have goosebumps again. For finding that magnificent talent that you're so great at. So I feel very much the same. I totally appreciate that. And I have a big mouth, and I don't care who it is that I'm saying you're full of it to. I don't care if you've been doing it for 500 years.
Yeah.
No. If it's a no, it's a no. But I respect that. What is it? That courage.
Yes.
To walk away, because I will say that my family, my mom didn't go to college, and so it was very important for me to have an education, and that was probably the proudest moment in my mom's eyes, was me walking across the stage. And when I said I'm done, she was like, I feel like you're just throwing it all away.
Wow. Yeah.
This was awesome. I'm over 40 years old, and my mom is still like, telling me this. And I was like, but I'm not throwing I didn't lose any of the information. None of my experience fell out of my head.
Yeah.
I'm just taking what I've learned, and I want to apply it in a new and different way. What that is, I don't know yet, but trusting that is huge, especially for healers. And, parallel, I'll just tap on this because I don't really want to talk about this, and probably you don't either. But this is a very opportune and auspicious time for healers to walk away from the sick care paradigm, because healthcare is not healthcare. Healthcare, our definition of healthcare is dependency. A doctor, a physician's job is to teach you how to not need the physician. That's why Hippocrates said, "Physician, heal thyself." Right?
Yeah.
So we're supposed to be teaching people how to heal themselves, just like every other ascended master that came here and spoke and taught, and but that is not the current paradigm. So it is very sick care oriented and very, you need me, and nothing is in you, it's all out here. We've had that piled on in every aspect of society, right? Like everything's outside of you. So that coming back home and trusting the journey and understanding that you have that interesting little spark that all this trained you to ignite and just, hold as the torch. So I think that's just beautiful. And I love the similarity and the synchronicity. So thank you.
Well, I mean, I think sometimes, especially, when we are healers and trained healers, we're supposed to have had this perfect journey ourselves. There's this great belief that, we're kind of sat in the lotus just waiting for people to come to us all our lives, and, the truth is really that, we all have these experiences, and I mean, I wouldn't feel comfortable saying to people, I think you need to clear this out and clear this out and clear this out and this, watch this and follow this and come to this path, if I hadn't been through that process myself, and even though I don't, necessarily practice acupuncture much anymore, it's Chinese medicine and the philosophy behind it, 5-element theory, the Tao, yin yang, is still the foundational aspects that I use for understanding nature, for understanding the universe, so that the process is so infinitely kind of woven into what I do and how I kind of navigate the world, really, and how I see it, my version of it. As you say, everything comes together, but it's when you realize it's a stepping stone and not the journey itself, you're like, oh, okay, yeah. It's
right.
As you say, it's
where's
the training.
That next step?
Yeah.
Where's
that's the exciting bit, isn't it?
Yes.
We're all evolving all the time. So, I mean, in this sense, then it leads me on perfectly to my next question. We are in this process, if you say, of sick care, and I don't think that's just a word that can be applied purely to the medical or big pharma industry. I think, it's, on not just the physical, but the emotional and spiritual levels at the moment. So how does this idea or this process of ascension of humanity, what does that mean to you? What does it look like?
Another big deep question. So and I did read these before, and I was sort of pondering this morning when I was taking my shower, and Spirit had other things to tell me. So I would say, truthfully, I believe that this has been an ongoing process since. So I'm going to say some things that are a little controversial, might speak to some and might trigger others. So
yeah, that's fine.
I'll throw that out there.
Yeah.
I truly believe that we are as slow-moving, dense, and dumb as a species as we have ever been. So if you go back and you truly believe, these ancient Lemurians, Atlantis, these light beings, giants, gods coming here, they did not have bodies like this.
Yeah.
And we have slowed down so much that we rely solely on our left brain to logically understand things that cannot be logically understood. So we have come to this point in our humanity currently. It's flipping, though, so here's some hope.
That's the good news. Here comes the good news, folks.
Yes, here's the good news. It's flipping, and this catastrophe. Oh, I just spit everywhere. Sorry. This catastrophe. I know, right? I'm passionate. This catastrophe that has become our current global situation has awakened so many people to this. I say this most lovingly. This global stupidity. We're all so disoriented, and not even around that. Like you said, spiritually, physically, emotionally, all this stuff is coming up for us to heal as humanity. And it took a kick in the heart chakra to awaken a lot of people, just awaken them. But a lot of them have been slapped awake. And I mean, slapped with a fire hose, so they have no idea how to even wrap that 5% of their conscious left-minded logical brain around 1 billion% of everything. Conspiracies and news. What do you believe? What do you believe? What is it? And so on that note, I really feel that as a whole, as a collective, for us to truly get back to light and lift and ascend, we really actually have to work on ourselves individually. That's where the ripple is. So if we can recognize that we are a drop of the ocean, no matter where we are, we're still the drop. And when we embody that truth, love, and light, that we are source, that we are love and light, and recognize where we're at right now and why we have come here, and that this is all, there's a beautiful orchestration, right?
Yes.
Even though we can't see it. I think stepping into that, whether it's pulling the little blindfold up or having somebody just rip it off your face, it all has to happen right now the way that it's happening.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to remember the beauty in that. But I do feel that it is a flip to, there are enough of us speaking light and truth to get the people staring over here freaking, like, oh my gosh, like, wait a minute, I feel, and I have goosebumps again.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, the horror. They're like, wait a minute, she's a doctor. And so on that little note, our credibility, especially as females, many of us, like, I was born in the 70s. For me to be in the male world, I had to have some letters.
Yes.
I had to have a, you know what I mean? I had to have a piece of paper that showed you that I was, whatever,
important,
able to be in the, able to be in the same room. But I think there are enough of us as your professionals who have exited the professional matrix and have entered into the truth of healing, the truth of who we really are, and just how to work the avatar, how to control the energy, how to master this being so that things outside, all those things that we're told are, exist outside of us, aren't affecting us, and we realize that it's truly within. So I feel the shift. And I will say, you may have seen me on here, there's some times where I'm coming from ego, where I just want to climb through my phone and be like, wake up, light worker, quit doing that. But, we're all, and probably people want to do that to like, what are you doing, lady? So it's just that beautiful evolution and trusting again in the divine orchestration of what is playing out.
Everything that is. So, okay, so, I mean, that's, this idea of growth.
I don't know if I answered your question.
No, it's fine. I mean, the idea of this whole project is that, it's a collection of ideas in itself, because I think that, the ascension process to me is something that will happen to us all as unique individuals. We all will ascend in our own manner, in our own sense, to our own level. And the whole idea behind this project is for people who have had the time to think about it and come to an understanding within themselves where they are feeling fulfilled and content with that, to be able to explain their processes. Because as you've said, you can be watching something like The Voice and it seems completely different, but it's all these different dialogues and narratives where we all know it just takes one sentence, just 1 second for someone to hear something and they're off. Like, what? So I mean, I think, for me personally, as you said, the ascension is an internal process, and I think, whether we like it or not, I've always been a glass half full girl anyway, but, I mean, definitely in this country, the first lockdown, it was bliss. It was that thing, as you said, people had forgotten what truly made them happy, and they began to discover that about themselves again, and now, as we come to the other end of it, and they're all having to go back to work, they're not happy about it, and simple things like, I had a friend who, he said, oh, it's been wonderful, I taught my daughter how to ride her bike, and that is something that will stay with him forever. And that
and
is
her,
and her,
as a daughter.
And he wouldn't, that wouldn't have happened, so it's people starting to realise what is important on another level to, as we have, ourselves kind of endeavoured into this matrix of, this is how you have to speak, this is what you have to wear, this is how you have to act, these are the letters you need after your name, and then we'll start listening to you, but only till you say something we don't like, and then so this kind of box that, to be fair, and I too was born in the 70s, has been getting smaller and smaller, I feel, as I have grown. I was lucky enough to be in the UK when they had the original kind of Reclaim the Streets, and grew up with dance music culture, so I was brought up, as a young woman. I was very aware of the idea of freedom and this process of unity, because it was something I'd found, in a tent in a field somewhere.
That's awesome.
But it taught us, that everyone was moving together, and I still use this as an analogy now, that everyone's dancing to the same tune, everyone's moving to the music. It's an energy that you can feel, yet you all know you're individuals. You've all turned up in your best outfit, and you're all there, with your tribe, and there's this similarity, and that for me is kind of that energy that it will emulate. And I feel that is what is rising in a much bigger scale with what's come out of this, people's ideas of what is freedom and unity and connection. So I mean, in that sense, what is it, in an even and a kind of even deeper level, what, we've talked about returning to the light. So what is the light to you? What does that mean by definition?
So before I answer that, you said we're all sort of like dancing to this universal rhythm, and I got this image of a choir, larger than, like a never-ending choir, where we're all singing the same song with our own voice, but we're all singing the same song. Oh, and here they go again. We're all just singing the same song in our own chorus, in our own chord, and we each chime. We all have our part, and it's all part of. When I said it's all orchestrated, it's very musical, very, oh wow, so interesting. Okay, so what is the light? Oof. So one of the things that I have always, so I was raised in a Catholic family. I was never baptized. From 5 years old, I'd be sitting in church and be like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah, I
think I was like 45 when I was 5. And then we would pull out into the parking lot, and it'd be like, peace be with you, go be peaceful and love your neighbor. And we'd be pulling out of the parking lot, and I would hear, my grandpa, like, you bastard, like, why you pull out in front of me? And that was just such, and also I knew what was going on at home, and that was not all peaceful and love and Jesus saves everybody stuff. So I've had a beef with certain things my whole life, but in this journey I've come to see it in different ways and different levels and understanding. And as every wise teacher, Gnostic, guru, they don't ever come right out and tell you anything. No. You have to interpret it, and you got to read between the lines, and you have to come to understand what that means for you. So for me, one of the things that I think people would be able to relate to when I talk about the light is when we read the Son of God. I'm the Son. Yeah. The Son of God with a U.
Yeah.
The Son in us, this light, this spark that animates us. So when I was going through chiropractic school, it's medical school. We sit for 200 to 400 more hours than medical doctors.
Wow.
Anyway, we get dissed all the time. Ironically, we work on the spine. Where does Kundalini come up?
Yeah.
What? There's lots of us that get nitpicked for our professions. I know you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. Anyway, I digress. So that light, it is that spark. It is that animating essence in us that differentiates us, you and I, from what I worked on in the cadaver lab. There is something that is, right? So I don't mean to be morbid, but there is something in those transition shells, avatars, that is not, and that to me is the light. So in I know you probably are aware of this. In Taoism, what you can call the Tao is not the Tao. So the second you try to label it or put a name on it, you've pushed it, you've boxed it in, which I think, as you were saying, all of us feel very, and the box is getting smaller and smaller. So there's this, thank you. That's a very interesting parallel there. So this box is getting smaller and smaller, but we are getting bigger and bigger. Yeah. And so that reconciliation, I think, is part of that global stuff that's coming up now. Like, what really does make me happy? Is this even real? So remembering that we have this innate essence in us. We get cut and it heals. I didn't tell my hand to heal. Something inside of me knew to do that. So recognizing just even that little magic, like mystery, this miracle, that's all the light. That's all. So whatever you wanna, you get it. You get my point. It's just this. It's the inner essence that none of us can explain. No science can name it. No study will prove it. No left brain logical answer. And I think that is really where the world is blowing up right now, because Piscean misogynistic left brain needs an answer and a study and a paper on it. And we all know that ain't never going to happen. Never, ever, ever. So that to me is the light. However you define it, just own it and have some kind of faith in it, whatever that means.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, that's it. That is, faith is really, the opposite of fear, isn't it? Really, in that sense, So, it is that parallel. It, I believe it requires that kind of level of belief for us to grow. To be able to have faith, not just in nature and as we would call kind of qi or whatever in the Chinese medicine, but also very much within ourselves. That's so the kind of missing link. It's for sure. It's that's the thing. So I mean, that's a beautiful explanation, and I think it makes sense to people, because when you come from a medical background as well, that's what was missing for me. Even in the Chinese medicine thing, they're all going, oh yeah, qi, we're moving the qi, and you'd say to people, oh, are you an energy worker? Oh no, I'm not an energy worker, and they'd kind of look down and and I'd say, well, what are you doing? Oh, well, I'm moving qi. And I'm like, well, what is qi? And they're like, well, energy. So I'm like, okay, so you're moving energy around the body, but you're not. Well, no, not like that. So it's until that part comes back into medicine, and as you say, reductionist theory and reality, just there is no space for that, because as you say, it exists within a place where there is no right or wrong. It exists beyond duality itself. So,
you know where it actually does exist, that the medical world and the non-medical world the placebo effect. The medical world cannot deny the placebo effect. They created it. They defined it. So, hello, your mind. Your mind is the medicine. Your mind is the medicine. Period.
And the rather more upsetting nocebo effect as well, where if you tell something or someone something's going to happen, it will do. Which they don't mention too much.
It works, but it works both ways. You can manifest it, or you can make it disappear.
So
it's beautiful.
I mean that's a really good place to start. But when we talk about the light, and you've obviously come from this big healing sort of thing, and you've had a very similar journey to myself, but you've obviously had your own awakening within the awakening within the awakening as it happens. So what kind of what would be your advice to someone who's been through this process of the last really nearly 2 years now, let's face it,
since they were born,
and they're more and more people's eyes are beginning to become open. They are understanding or beginning to acknowledge feelings in themselves where they're not happy. What would be your advice to people who've just started on the journey, if they're coming from the as you were saying, oh God, God, what's happening? It can also feel like that when we begin to awaken as well. It can be going from fear into a different kind of, fear,
Yes.
basically. So what would you be, if you could go back and speak to yourself at that paradigm, or, if you met someone like that, what would your advice be to them?
Well, that going from to awakening, I think the awakening is probably more gut wrenching. Like it will. You thought this was scary? Yeah. Holy s! Wait till you awaken to, and then that whole, like I was saying, that reconciliation of like, OMG, like, so I'm this. I really am a physical being in this reality, but I am truly this spiritual essence animating it. So that's a very interesting paradigm. So what I would truly say to anybody opening their eyes to this this path or stepping onto this path, you've already been on it. Like if you're watching this, if you're on any of our pages, you're already awakened. I liken the spiritual journey or our human existence, and I've used this with some of my coaching clients and also during readings. I feel like our entire life, we come in off the breath of God. We're just this open antenna. We're like a lightning rod. We take it all in. And then about 7 or 8, we get to go to our first pinata party. And we get a bandana put over our face. Somebody gives us a stick. And depending on who our guides are, they just spin us around and spin us around. And then they shove you out there and they're like, go. And you're like, go what? What do I do? And they're like, well, we gave you that stick. Go. What do I do? And we're hitting ourselves, all this stuff. And I really truly think that the awakening is recognizing that you don't have to use the stick and that you're the one who can, like, that bandana's just, it'll fall right off. And that there's no anything to swing at. It's all already on the ground, all around us. Like, all we got to do is reach down and pick it up. Like, are you kidding me? So, and the other analogy I use is the Goldilocks. Life is a series of finding your Goldilocks moments.
Okay, yeah.
What's perfect for you? What's not too soft, not too hard, not too hot or cold. And to realize that each one of us is Goldilocks.
Yeah.
And to, like, you can't tell me what just right is. Yeah. I have to find my just right. So trust that you're already awakened. You're already on this path. And just know that you were very likely brought up in a family that is not on this same path, that is not awakened. And it will rip your heart out when you have to finally come to grips with the fact, and this might trigger some people also, DNA, our parents that we choose to come through, is just a genetic expression. They're vessels, they're teachers, no different than us. They're doing the best they can with what they've been given. And our stuff comes from them, and their stuff comes from their parents. We're all apples that just roll straight down the trunk. We don't go far, we roll right down the trunk. Oh,
I'm just going to stop just 1 second there because I could cut that there. What is your problem? Really? Right.
It's so funny.
Sorry, yeah, so apples.
Yeah, so we are, that saying, we're apples, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Sure, yeah.
I truly believe that we roll right down the trunk and stop at the bottom. We're so much closer to our first teachers. They might not be parents, but the first people that raised us. We're so much closer to that belief system. It's all learned behavior. And one thing we need to recognize is maybe I'm not an apple.
Yeah.
Maybe I want to be a pineapple.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm a banana and I don't even grow in this orchard. So recognizing all of that and understanding that just because you think you were born an apple does not mean that you're necessarily an apple. And all the apples in that bunch, you know that saying, one rotten apple can spoil the whole bunch. You're that rotten apple.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's your gift though.
Yeah, exactly.
And you have to recognize that you're a pineapple and how whatever pineapples do away from the tree. So I don't know if they roll exactly. But, you know, just embracing that and also standing your ground, having that faith that I'm not crazy. I'm not, just because you don't believe the same thing I do doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Or that I'm not good enough. And I really feel like it's important to say, whoever's listening to this, if you were raised in a really tough, if you had a tough childhood, there's a reason. Like, you are so much stronger than you think. You're not given anything that you haven't been prepared for. It may have been past lifetimes that you've gotten the tools and you just need to remember, which we're all here doing. We're remembering to take the bandana off, you know, and that we're not really at a piñata party. But really just embracing and trusting and finding community. Finding people like you and I that don't look anything like what we're used to seeing, maybe, whether that's even just the color of our skin or what we're used to hearing all the time in our house. I was raised in my dad is a fairly racist person. Let's just say my dad is a racist person. Most of my friends do not look like me.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I've been that person who's had one friend in this clique and one friend in that clique and one, you know, and I love it that way. So I embrace everybody's uniqueness and their differences, and finding community that lets you be you for you when you need to be you and support you for you is critical right now.
Yes.
Critical.
Yeah.
Because there's so much divisiveness.
Yeah.
Yes, there's so much divisiveness and so much fear.
Talked about the idea of this kind of helping other people to find their happy. And, you know, as we've just discussed as well, you know, I think, you know, the awakening, as they say, or, you know, or the spiritual journey, you know, when we get to what I call kind of the crossroads or the turning point, I've always been lucky enough to have a lot of people around me that can guide me. And I've always been very lucky to be able to find the right people when I've needed to. So, you know, with that in mind, I think it's always good, especially in the beginning, for us to have a guide or someone to, you know, sometimes I think when I work with people as well, it's not necessarily that I'm always guiding them. It's just to have someone that's been through the experience before, who can say, yeah, that's okay. These things happen. You're not alone. And just someone that you can express yourself freely to, you know, because a lot of the things that happen are, you know, right up on there on the kind of, you know, crazy scale as far as most people would be concerned, you know, and to kind of try and contain that in yourself, you know. I mean, I know for me as a young woman, it was quite a lonely experience because of that, you know, and as I became older and found my tribe and found people that were much more aligned with myself, it's allowed, by being open, it's allowed me to open up further and further. So, you know, if people wanted to work with you, if they want to come to you for a reading or something like that, how do they get in contact with you? What's the format? How does it work?
Thanks for asking. Well, actually, I have a link in my bio, in my Instagram bio, so anybody can click on there and book a reading. And I do coaching. I do one-on-one. So if somebody wants to get more in depth and actually get some advice and, you know, tools, those kinds of things, I would highly recommend coaching or finding a mentor. Honestly, as you said, it is very fortuitous when those people cross our paths. And there's that saying, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. Well, when the teacher is ready, the students appear as well. So it is, and And as you know, we're forever the student and the teacher. That said, the only mentor I can say that I've ever really had was my chiropractic mentor.
Okay.
Who I still go get adjusted by. On this spiritual path, I've never had anybody.
Wow.
And
okay.
I've mentioned this to a couple of people, and I actually had a conversation with who I call my spiritual sparring partner. She's was one of my chiropractic students, actually. And again, no coincidences, how we meet up with people and whatnot. But she and I sort of bounce things back and forth. And I remember saying, like, years ago, like, when I was in my, just the pit of despair, I've never had anybody that I can ask. I don't have anybody that has been where I'm going that I can look up to and say, what does this mean? Like, what is this shit? Like, why is my whole body vibrating? Why do I want to climb out of my skin and kill my whole family all at the same time? And I love everyone. Like, what is this? So my whole life, I have been feeling my own way through. Yeah. So I do recognize why I became a healer, why I just give unsolicited advice and come on Instagram and share random mess. I know I'm not the only one who needs this. I know we're all the same.
Yes, we're all the same being.
We're all the same. Yeah, we're all. I mean, come on. So we've been talking about that. So that said, I really do find it very important to have people that can even just give you a frame of reference. Yes. So while I might not be everyone's cup of tea, I mean, I drink coffee, but I understand, that spirit comes to us and speaks to us in the language we need to hear it in.
Yes.
Yeah, and I've said that multiple times. So whether it's numbers or songs or someone like you or I, a random YouTube video, trust that. Like, that's a breadcrumb. That's a little piece of the puzzle that you're getting from spirit to see more clearly the entire picture, right? So I'm not like one who goes on and really advertises myself very much. I'm truly a believer of you're here for you got drawn or called, or you've called me to you, whatever that is. And even when I was in practice, I saw between 80 and 110 people a day. I did not go out and advertise.
Yes. Yeah.
It was all word of mouth. So when you do a good job because you believe in what you're doing, you love what you're doing. First, as the practitioner, as the healer, as the person, when you love what you're doing, it is never work, and the money and the success and it bangs on your door. So trust that. Many healers don't believe they're worthy of riches, abundance. Right?
Yeah. That's another story altogether.
That's a whole nother. That's episode 48. Just being willing to be open to that, be open to actually reaching out. Truthfully, I've done 2 readings for the same person within like Friday and Monday, and it's a middle-aged man who's an attorney getting readings about his relationship situation. It is not just us woo-woo ladies, all into this stuff. Yeah. No, this is universal. It is ubiquitous. Yeah. People, we all need a safe space to be us, to express ourselves without being gaslighted, without being broken down and told that I've been gaslighted my whole life. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from my own parents, like, why are you crying? What are you crying about now? I'll give you something to cry about. So it becomes very unsafe for us to be vulnerable. And that is huge in our world. So even though I might be very animated and obnoxious maybe to some, or over the top to some, I get it.
Yes.
I really do get it. Like, I am probably one of the most understanding semi-judgmental people you'll ever meet. But it's my own junk,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
But I acknowledge it's my own. Yeah, I know it's my junk when it's coming up. But I understand, like, I'm able to hold that space.
Yes.
And really see something, because I acknowledge my experiences and I see that namaste moment.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I appreciate that. And having been on this journey and having to really feel my way through it all I wouldn't say by myself. We're never by ourselves, right? But no human to really give me a frame of reference. Like, who do I ask? Just a perfect example. I can't tell you how many times I've changed my Instagram bio, because every time I try to put a finger on it, it's gone. Like, that's not you anymore. I'm an indigo child. No, you're not. I'm a Reiki master. No, you're not. I'm a doctor. No, you're not. You know, so you're all of those.
Yeah.
So anyhow, back to the original question. I have some links in my bio.
Yeah. No. I mean, I think that's the same for all of us. You know, it's very difficult to explain what you do in an Instagram bio. You know, it's like, what do you do? You know, you've got 148 characters or something, you know, but that's, you know, again, part of the game that we play within the Matrix, and we all understand that. And part of these kind of processes and doing these little videos, it allows us to make those connections and to see, you know, people and feel their energy, which I think is really the most important thing when it comes to working with others, is to think, yeah, you know, do I want to work with this person? Do I feel comfortable with them? Do I feel connected to them? You know, gone are the days of the professional, you know, ringing up and saying, well, what letters have you got after your name and what qualifications, you know, and I'm the same as you, you know. My joke was always that, you know, the letters that are after my name are longer than my name. You know, so it's like, you know, if you want, you know, qualifications, well, here we go. Have you got a pen? You know, so it is that difference, I think, when you're looking for people, is to feel that connect. So on that note, it's been absolutely amazing to connect with you today. It's so lovely to be able to watch people's stuff on Instagram, but then this is kind of that next level of connection, which is just really amazing. And, you know, as I've said before, you know, one of my things is I'm quite a nosy person, so I love finding out people's stories. You know, what I always find is astounding is the similarities that we all have. You know, every time I've done this, and I am sure every time I do it in the future, there will be parallels between all the people that I speak to and between all the people that have been on here. So
I think that is so beautiful. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, you know,
really.
It brings us closer together. So I'd like just to thank everyone who's joined us and watched this episode. This is Bridge of Light, as I said, documenting the ascension to hopefully be able to build an energetic bridge to allow others to cross and ascend with us as we raise our vibration and frequency. So thank you so much for joining me, Krista, and thanks to everyone who's watched.
Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Namaste.
Thank you.